calls it flat work. So, and does our website still have pictures of work on it? There's some pictures of my work. I still have to send some more pictures and get them posted on our website of what I actually make, but I've made probably 3 or 4 dressers, a couple of clocks, a couple of desks, tables, chairs, you name it. I work mostly in hardwoods, maple, mahogany, walnut, some oak, not too much, but that's my background.
Thank you.
I just ask that you hold your applause till the end of the meeting. And hopefully this demonstration will help everybody convert those paint scrapers and paint can openers to sharp chisels and plane blades and everything else.
There we go.
I've looked at some people's tools and believe me, they aren't pretty. I printed out a grit chart. It comes right off the internet. Anybody can find it. I have some copies of it. I'll pass it around for people. Save one for our president. He wanted one. If you want to hand those out. And I also printed out a couple of copies, only about 5 or 6 copies of steels that are commonly used in woodworking. So if somebody wants to take, I'll pass these around, take a look, and it goes over some of the common types of steel you use in woodworking.
Let me get one for the website.
It's a good thing to, you can pass them around and look at them. It's a good thing to know what kind of steel you're using when you go to sharpen something. Oh, I better keep one for myself, so I know what I'm talking about. But if you look on this chart, you'll see that some steels are easier to sharpen than others. Some wear better, some have better grindability. The most common ones people use are O1, A2, maybe some D2, and some of the newer steels, which are the PM steels, start out life as a powdered steel and are forged into woodworking tools. And the reason they started using powdered steels was that it's easier to control the grain structure on it, and the content of other additives in it, you know, to make it harder or, you know, tougher, what have you. So it's kind of a nice chart to have.
How do you know, that's like your chisels, the various steels, right?
Right.
How do you know which one you might have?
A lot of the newer ones, if you go on the website, they'll tell you what kind of steel it's made out of. And it also, excuse me, it also goes for pocket knives and whittling knives, carving tools. And this chart also tells you the Rockwell hardness that your tools, you know, what you can expect. And of course, the harder the Rockwell hardness, the harder it's going to be to sharpen it. So, and of course, you know, there's all the high-speed steels, which have a higher chrome and moly content to resist heat.
I'll post this on the newsletter, and
Yeah.
or maybe we could add it to the website for a month or so.
See, that comes in.
You know, I didn't even keep a copy of this for myself.
Everybody get a copy that wanted one?
This, the reason I printed out this, this handout was that it covers a lot of the popular distributors of sharpening systems. as far as natural stones go and diamonds, synthetic stones, water stones, it gives you a good idea of the grit size as in microns, as well as you know, the what one compares to the other one as far as grit size. So, and I have samples up here that I brought in a lot of my stuff that you can see, you know, compare different grits and different types of sharpening stones. But this is kind of a nice chart to have too, handy. If you look at the bottom of it, you probably don't want to get into the last 2 or 3 of them, just for the fact that, you know, unless you're grinding optical glass or you're excessive compulsive, why, you don't want to get that fine on something. Most people can't tell the difference once you get up above 1,000 grit. So. Now, as far as stones go, there's a bunch of different types of stones. You know, there's diamond plates, diamond lapping, there's Japanese water stones, there's natural stones of all different types. You can get stones in different shapes and sizes. There's slips for carving instruments. Can everybody see that? Whoop.
I don't know what's happening here.
Oh my God. There's different shapes, sizes. There's new stones, there's old stones. There's stones that they use in industry. There's one. These stones, you can pass this one around. I always think of those stones as people using them to sharpen a sickle or a scythe.
Found an old sickle.
What kind of stone is that again?
It's an oval stone,
Oval stone.
and you can, here's one.
Got it like grass.
This is a, it's a, India, synthetic stone. And I'll pass some of these other ones around. Here's an old oil stone.
There you go.
That's a diamond plate.
Where have you picked up these stones over the, I mean, curious.
Just about anywhere. A lot of them are available commercially. The diamond lapping plate I just bought from Lee Valley. There's a Washita stone, which is a real low grit stone.
What's this stone with a hash mark or the oval shape?
I think that one they use for sharpening sickles and scythes.
Oh, like,
Yep, exactly.
Like farm tools or something.
Farm tools. Here's another one I'll pass around. This is a translucent Arkansas stone. They run between 2,000 and 3,500 grit.
It looks like it's made out of flint.
no, it's Arkansas.
Yeah.
Don't drop it.
Yeah.
It's a very expensive stone.
Yeah.
pass around the,
Is it Sharpening or Norton?
Sharpening. These are Japanese water stones. And actually, there's nothing mysterious about Japanese water stones. They're different grades of grit in a clay binder. Basically, that's all they are. You use them with mostly water. The natural stones, you can use them with water or oil. And diamond stones the same way.
If you ever use those stones, that you could use either or. If you use one, can you ever switch back to the other?
Usually not. That translucent Arkansas stone, I use oil on that. That's a diamond lapping plate for flattening Japanese water stones.
A sharpening stone for a sharpening stone.
Well, exactly. And I'll get to something in a minute, but you can also take, on a diamond lapping plate, you can also take and flatten a natural stone on it.
Okay, great, that's it.
But you can also,
Here. And there's what I use.
natural stones and some synthetic stones, you can actually take sandpaper on a flat plate and clean up your stones. I'll do one here in a few minutes. If they get bound up and shiny and everything else, you can take and clean them up and kind of renew their cutting ability.
Paul, what was that again? You're doing that to flatten it, right?
To flatten it and clean the glazing off of it.
Hey Paul, this die is sharp, what is this used for, the metal one?
That's for basic sharpening.
So you can use it on your knives at home in the kitchen?
You can use it on your knives in the kitchen. Yeah, all these sharpening methods, you can use them on kitchen knives, pocket knives, plane blades, chisels, carving tools.
A friend of mine is a chef, and I bought one of the sticks to sharpen my knives.
Yeah.
He said, that's not sharpening it, Rich, it's taking off the burrs on your knife.
Yeah, a steel is to stand the burr up on
So
your
when
knife.
I'm sitting there going like this with my knife, I'm not sharpening it?
No, you're not sharpening it. What you're doing is you're standing the burr up on it.
Okay.
As you use a knife,
All that time I bought one, I thought I was sharpening my knife.
no, you end up with that's kind of an exaggerated picture of it. You end up with a little hook on it. And all a steel does is take and stand that little burr up.
So how do you sharpen your kitchen knives other than take it to somebody?
Well, you can use any one of the sharpening methods we're gonna go over. So, you know, anything from emery paper all the way up to, you know, a diamond plate or any one of the natural stones you can use.
Good to know.
The wet dry paper at Harbor Freight is good stuff.
Yeah.
Any wet dry paper.
But one of the things that that really helps you in sharpening is to have some flat surface. And this is just a piece of granite, but there's a lot you can do with it. You can take an adhesive spray and mount a piece of just sandpaper to it and use that for sharpening, initial sharpening.
Okay.
What grit sandpaper?
You can start with 200 and work your way all the way up to 2,000. But you can use a granite, you can use plate glass. I used to have a plate glass piece that I used until I broke it. But anything that's relatively flat, even the top, if you have a good table saw with a cast iron top, even that is flat enough that it'll help you with sharpening.
You get granite tiles, 12 by 12 tiles at Lowe's or Depot.
Exactly,
That are
you
flat.
can use those. But anything surface that's, flat, doesn't have to be an engineering lapping plate or granite plate, that's good to a thousandth or a 10,000ths over its length, Doesn't have to be that flat, but
What is this for?
that is for flattening Japanese water stones. Japanese water stones are relatively soft, and what you wanna do is about every 2 or 3 sharpenings, you wanna take and run them over that to flatten the top of them, because they wear rather quickly.
So is that like when you have the grinding wheel, you take your little piece to make the
Wheel flat, yeah.
Is there another way other than a diamond, that lapping, to flatten a Japanese water stone?
You could do it on sandpaper, but it would, do the same thing, any sort of abrasive. These sandpapers too are silicone carbide. They'll cut just about anything.
What's the grit on the sandpaper?
This doesn't specify, it's, yeah, just says assorted.
If you get the automotive stuff, it goes from like 80 to 2,000 or something
Right.
like that. Oh, yeah.
When your
Yeah,
big belt sanders break, you can take those, that sandpaper off and cut it into strips.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And you'll get it.
but there's any number of different abrasives you can use. You can pick a rock up out of the creek and use it to sharpen your knife if it'll cut steel. Yeah, let me get my.
No, all I have is that.
Now, one of the first steps in sharpening an edge tool is you want to get the back flat. And you only have to flatten the back of like a chisel or a plane blade once. But you want to do a good job at it. And you don't have to, on a chisel or a plane blade, you don't have to flatten the whole back. All you have to do is flatten about a ½ inch of it, because that's probably all you'll ever use in your lifetime is a ½ inch of that plane blade. Not unless you do it for a living. I'll pass this around, and you can see where the blade is flat and where it isn't.
Is it sharp?
Well,
No.
these diamond sharpener things like Central Hardware and local hardwares, how, do they last, do they ever wear out, how do you clean them?
I just happen to have in my bag of tricks
But you knew he was gonna ask
Yeah.
that question.
a set of, these are from Harbor Freight, and these are different grits. And I've used them on occasion, and you'll see that the grits are relatively coarse on them, and they're relatively cheap. But, as a starting point for sharpening, you can use those. And they work well enough. But if you look at the way diamonds work, you have a lot of diamonds standing up like this on your plate. And when you buy something, a diamond plate, they'll advertise it as, you know, $350, $300, $600, $1,000. And initially, that's not what it is. Initially, it will be a lot coarser than that. And as you use it, these diamonds will break off. And they'll get to a smaller size. And these smaller size diamonds are the ones that are actually bonded to the steel. And this, when it says it's 600 or 1,000 grit or whatever, fine, extra fine, this is what they're talking about, not initially
So
this.
you got excess on the top of it when they first glue it, and then you gotta wear it in?
Yeah, the diamonds will eventually fracture and break off, you know, as you use it. But it'll get to a point where a certain amount of the diamonds will be bonded to, you know, permanently where they won't fracture anymore. And that's basically the grit that you're getting,
Okay.
so.
How do you clean them?
Water and a scrub brush. Yeah, don't ever be afraid to use water on a diamond stone, because usually what they bond them with is nickel, which, you know, doesn't rust, so.
Paul, so if I get this right, if I have a wood chisel that's on an angle, I only have to sharpen the back of it?
No, you have to sharpen, that's the first step,
Oh, okay, so the first step is the back.
the back. And when you go to sharpen tools, and especially if you rehab old tools, you have to be careful, because what you'll find on old tools is a lot of pitting on both sides of the blade. And if you don't grind the blade down to clean steel on both sides, your edge is gonna look like this, you know? And you'll always have a series of those pits along the edge, and you'll never get a sharp edge on it. So be careful if you're rehabbing old tools, you're gonna have to evaluate them real careful, whether there's enough good steel that you can grind all those pits and rust and, you know, surface corrosion out of them to get down to good steel. Because you'll never get a sharp edge without it. But the first step is to sharpen the back. And as I said, you only have to do it once. I'll pass around one of these chisels. You only have to do it once. Every once, be careful, these are very sharp too.
That's all you use
You only have to do it once. Every once in a while, I will take and touch up the back of a chisel on a,
180 to 260.
on like an 8,000 grit waterstone, you know, just to make sure that it's polished, and then go ahead and strop it.
Wet sand too.
Wait, what does the stropping
Check to see if you got something in your teeth then.
Stropping removes the final burr on the edge of the chisel. As I said before, you'll get when I demonstrated the knives, you'll get a little whispery curl of metal that's left on the edge before it gets down to that very final point. And what stropping does is it takes that off, and it also polishes the edge of the blade. And up here I have a couple of different strops. This is one I use quite a bit, and basically this is only a piece of 1/4-inch plywood with buffing compound on it. And you can tell, you can see by the, you know, the steel that's been removed, that it actually works quite well. And here's a strop for carving tools. And you'll see different sizes of shapes on the back of it that you can use for stropping carving tools. And here's a strop that a friend of mine made for larger tools, plane blades, etc. And all this is a piece of suede that's glued to the top of it.
So the material used for stropping, does it really, you say lapping compound, you got suede, leather I know is used,
Yeah.
with suede.
But
I guess is
anything,
a-
a lot of people, instead of using like a piece of plywood, they'll use a piece of MDF, works just as well. And I was telling somebody that I made mounted a piece of MDF on a faceplate for my lathe and turned different shapes on the side of it and used that for sharpening carving tools.
Are you familiar with the workshop electric sharpener with the little bands that you put in there?
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
was that?
Yeah, fine.
I own 3 of them, they're great.
Yeah, basically, you know, that's power sharpening, you know. But if you can't afford a power sharpener, why, there's a lot of different options you can. These are some of the compounds that I use for for stropping. One is black emery, which is a good start. It's probably the coarsest of the stropping compounds. And then I think, what's the other one? The white one is white diamond, which is a little finer. And then the yellow one is yellow rouge, which will give you a mirror polish on the back here.
How's this used?
You just draw your carving tools over it.
At
I
an angle?
didn't bring any carving tools.
At an
with me.
angle?
Yeah, just
Oh,
Big tool, Sheffield.
like, this is for a V gouge, this is for, you know, round gouges, different sizes. Flat tools. This is for the other side of gouges.
Does that come with the grooves in it, or is that?
Yeah, no, it came with the grooves in it,
Okay.
so.
which is turning ones.
Back to sharpening. So the first step in sharpening is to get the back flat. And the more polish you have on it, the better. That means you get a better edge on it. And then the second step in sharpening is to sharpen the bevel. And the best way to get a consistent bevel is with a sharpening jig. There's a couple of different kinds of jigs up here. When I get a new set of chisels or anything else, the first thing I do after I polish the back is break out a jig to get a consistent bevel on the front of it. When you buy new tools, they'll always be square, pretty much square across the front. But you just want to make sure that it's square if you check it with a, you know, reliable square to make sure. And then the second thing is to break out a jig so you get a consistent bevel here. You know, depending upon the work you're doing, will depend upon what bevel you have on it. There's some woodworkers that have 3 or 4 different sets of chisels, all with different bevels. Some may have a steep bevel, say 30 degrees for a real hardwood. and others may have a bevel of, say, 26 degrees for a general purpose. And then for real soft woods, you may wanna go as low as 22 degrees. And that's the initial bevel. And once you establish the initial bevel and get it honed, what you want to do is you want to make a secondary bevel, which makes your tool last a lot longer. And what you're doing is just beveling the very, very edge of it.
Would that be your 30, 26, 22, or that's just gonna be a much greater bevel then, angle?
Right. And then each one of these, say you have a 30-degree bevel.
Use the tip.
Let me see if I can erase some of
So that forces you only to use the tip by putting the rounded edge on it.
Yeah, let me draw a bigger picture here. This is your initial bevel right here, say 30 degrees. Then you want a secondary bevel here. This is kind of, out of scale, but maybe a 3-degree bevel, which will give you actually a 33-degree working bevel. And same thing with, if you go to, say 26, and you put a 3-degree, you'll get a 29-degree working bevel. Or say for real soft woods, you start out with a 22-degree initial bevel and then a 3-degree working bevel.
Is that on chisels you're talking about?
Yeah. And all they do is, the steeper the bevel, the longer your edge will last, because on the lower ones, you'll get your edge turning, depending upon what you work with. If you use something like a 25-degree bevel on, say, hard maple or something, you may start getting your edge to turn on it. That's where a steel would come in to stand up the edge on your.
So it's 3 degrees, but it's very, very small, right?
Very, very small, yeah, it's probably no more than a 32nd on the very front edge. And as you sharpen, you're only sharpening this 3-degree bevel.
From here on out, once you establish the initial bevel?
Once you establish the initial bevel. And as you, as you sharpen this, it gets back further and further back, and it gets steeper and steeper. Then you have to go back and reestablish your initial bevel.
Oh,
Do these rules apply to wood carving tools too?
Pretty much, I would say that they would,
So if you're making a wood bowl and you wanna just chisel grooves into the side
Yeah.
of a bowl,
because basically, you're doing the same thing, whether it's a straight line of a chisel or a curved gouge of a bowl,
okay.
especially if you're driving it with a mallet or something, you're putting a lot of initial pressure right on that very edge. And it's always nice to have that little extra 3 degrees on the front to last, or make your tool last just a hair longer.
So on a regular chisel, you have a flat bevel,
Right,
and on the carving tool, let's say it's just a contour or a curve, so I'm gonna kind of rotate it. Like this, like if it's scooped, am I gonna rotate, sharpening the bevel on the curve?
yeah, Yeah, I didn't bring it, I should have brought a
Alright.
carving tool. But yeah, you want, if you're sharpening a carving tool like this, you wanna rock it back and forth like this,
Side to side.
side to side.
Okay, good.
And the same with, you know, if you hand sharpen your turning gouges, same way, you know.
Yep.
You'd wanna rock it
How
back,
do you recommend a long blade?
same way. Something like that, you would use something like this,
Okay,
you know, especially if it's curved or flat, you know,
this one's flat,
yeah. Yeah, then you would use just something
so
instead of,
just a small stone and just work my way across it.
well, what you would do is you'd hold that stationary and work the blade, work the stone
Okay,
across the blade. But, and you'd use, you know, the same number of grits and
yeah, go
everything
through the
else.
grits and
Just a little different technique for, the way you hold it.
okay, thanks. Did you wanna show me how it's done?
Free
Yeah,
sharpening.
bring it up. How dull or,
I don't know, you check it. I tried sharpening a while back, but it just didn't seem to take a real good edge.
We know of that.
That's my grandfather's.
Yeah, well, it'd be $20 charge.
Yeah.
We need all of that.
yeah, we'll start with this one. Now, if you notice, and actually this is a perfect example.
Yes, sir.
Look at the back of this, and all along the edge, you'll see micro pitting,
Yes, sir.
okay? Until you get all that micro pitting off, you'll never get a sharp edge,
Okay.
a real sharp edge. But what you would do, the same thing with a diamond stone, is run it back and forth like this.
Okay.
And this is, you could actually put this on a belt sander or whatever to take that off. Cause doing that, it'll take quite a long time to. Start right here. But any edge tool like this, the principle of sharpening it is all the same. Flatten the back, flatten one part of it. Same thing with a carving gouge or anything else. One side has to be flat. Or, you know, to meet at that perfect angle. And even a carving gouge, it'd be kind of hard to draw. But if your bevel is out here on a carving gouge, this in here has to be absolutely flat to get it sharpened properly. But this you would probably start out with, you know, some sort of grinder.
Okay, all right. You don't have to go very far.
But
I was
even
just looking for technique.
taking a diamond across the front edge. And if you would, let us pass this around because it's a perfect example of what I was talking about with the pitting. If you look at the back of it,
Now I gotta go home and look at mine.
Yeah, the backside of it.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna, get one of these, water stones wet. They make all sorts of fancy, ponds and holders for water stones, but actually, you know, for $1.36, you can go to Walmart and buy one of these, and it does exactly the same thing. And usually when you get up to the higher grits, they suggest, just spritzing your water stone.
I got a suggestion in the tub there,
Yeah.
for free, you know, Swiffer, wet mop. They come in a
Oh,
little
yeah.
tray about this high.
The trays,
They're
yeah.
About that long, that's what I use for wet stone. It's free.
Let this soak for just a minute.
You've got quite a collection of different systems you can use. When do you use what?
Yeah, that's what,
90% of them I don't use. I got a new set of chisels. The very first thing I did was flatten the backs on them, on the water stones. Started out with, I have a,
It's in the board.
320 grit. Because when you get something from the factory, you know, it's relatively, you know, sharp. It has relatively a standard bevel on it. Started out with a 300 grit using a jig. And then worked my way up through the grits on both the back and the front. Then I changed the angle on this and put a micro bevel on it of about 2 or 3 degrees for a 32nd of an inch. And then I went to a strop, and I like that yellow rouge compound, and just stropped it about 10 times on both sides, and that's it. I used to use the translucent oil stone, which gave a really good edge. You know, basically the same thing, working through either man-made stones or natural stones to get up to. And for my pocket knives, I almost always used a Washita stone, which is, you know, around 300, 350 grit. So, but basically, yeah, most of the time now just diamonds and water stones.
so the water stones will actually collect. That's why you do that, is to get the debris, I guess,
Yeah.
out of it.
Out of it and, you know, flatten it
Right.
and clean the surface on it.
Maybe that's why I can't sharpen
I don't know what the grit of this lapping stone is, but it's probably, you know, 500 or 600.
And you say you could use sandpaper also if you wanted?
Yeah, you can use sandpaper the exact same way. If you have the grit, just fix it to your
Your flat plate?
flat plate.
Gotcha.
And actually, if you draw your chisel over this, you can actually hear it cutting. You can hear a scraping.
So it's a pull, no push.
Yeah, you never want to push it in because you'll actually gouge the waterstone. It's not hard by any means. As I said, all it is a clay matrix with a certain level of grit embedded into it. And when I sharpen, I like to use the whole stone, side to side. And basically, when I sharpen, after I initially establish a bevel on it, and a micro bevel, then I'll just sharpen by hand. I won't use a jig at all.
So if you have nicks in your existing chisel right now, you use that method to take out the nicks as well?
Yeah, if you have nicks, I would start with like a 600 diamond, to get rid of the nicks and establish an initial bevel. Then after,
Yeah, I've got a new chisel.
see, this chisel wasn't dull to begin with, or, relatively dull, it just needed touching up. But once you get into the higher grits on water stones, they suggest just spritzing them. See, this stone is a little bit glazed up because you can tell the way the water beads up on it.
You're cleaning your stone.
So I'm just cleaning it off and making sure it's flat. And you can feel that it's flat just by the suction that's created. When two surfaces are,
Smooth. See the average person who might know, but that's like 7 kilograms. The other stone, yeah.
Now, are you letting the weight of the stone do most of the work, or are you pressing down?
I'm pressing down just a little bit.
Now you've got a established bevel, so you're just doing by hand, or is it just,
Yeah, I'm just doing it by hand.
so if we go down wherever and buy a set of chisels, probably use a jig to initially establish the bevel?
Yeah, use a jig initially to make sure that you have a correct bevel. But then, when you grind that micro bevel on it, I'll do it on this one.
Is it called a sharpening jig, or what do I?
Yeah.
Like, go buy it at Harbor Freight?
Yeah, there's a couple of different examples up here. There's a couple by Veritas, and there's a one that you would find at like Harbor Freight.
Could you show us how to use the jig?
Sure.
That water stone, can that also be can you put oil on it, or it's strictly water?
Strictly water.
Oil would probably damage it, right? Not use, make it no good?
I don't know, they usually just always tell you to, see, you would set it up same way. I don't know if I have the right.
Looks like sharpening your bowl right here. gouges and screws and stuff.
Right.
So you set it in, leave it out 1.25 inches or something.
Yeah,
Well, depending on the bevel, it changes the length
Yeah.
you leave out.
right.
Is there some like little chart that you go by right on the floor?
Actually, there's a little thing here that, you can set the bevel on it.
Where would you get something like that?
This is from, Lee Valley.
No, for that, to set the gauge or whatever?
They come together.
Oh, do they? Okay.
Yeah, it's a set. But it's basically the same.
That wouldn't work for any other jig then, would it?
Pardon?
Probably wouldn't work for other jigs then? Like the other ones you got there, that gauge?
Yeah, because all this does is tell you how far out from the,
Oh,
see this,
yeah.
let me show you.
So you gotta lay it down, push your chisel until it meets the angle.
This actually slides onto here and locks down. And I'll pass this around. And what it does is you would run your chisel out,
Gives it the angle.
and based on how far out your chisel is set, it gives you a different angle.
When you have it
And then how do you accomplish the micro level when you're finished?
You can do it the same way with this, it'll tilt it up.
Gotcha.
And also, that also has a concentric roller on it, that you can tip it up and it will automatically give you the 3-degree bevel.
Lee Valley, you said?
Yeah, Lee Valley.
More tools to buy.
So what would that cost for Lee Valley to purchase that?
I think they're about $60.
Maybe not. I don't know.
Not anymore.
Far cry from 16.
Yeah, but it's worth every penny though.
Yeah.
So is it more like $100 now?
It's about 140. Well, that's 3 Italians with it.
So basically,
Once you buy it, it's one of those things, once you buy it, you'll buy all the other accessories that come with it, so they finally.
There's ways to make homemade jigs, but
Yeah.
Sometimes money is well spent.
yeah.
That was, the Veritas one that he just showed, it's at a whole nother level. It's not bad.
but you slide it in, you can roll it, and you can just move that off. Oh, yeah. This, well, you go to Amazon.
Yeah, anything that's got Veritas on it, you might be first right there, so we know it's.
And there are different wheels as well.
Shams are 276.
No, but Lee Valley is, yeah, brand.
The Lee Valley is the retailer?
And it goes across.
Yeah.
It's Canada, it's the retailer, the Veritas is their high-end upscale, all their products are first rate.
Oh, yeah. YouTube
You can
is
spend a lot more money for other brands and instructions out there for money.
Yeah, we've got a couple of Rockler stores up there. Early in there.
They sell Veritas also.
They do.
basically, you got a little device that sits on top, you put your chisel in, right? And,
Now, after you sharpened it to
that's great.
what you wanted it, whatever grit you wanted to get to, this is actually 8,000 grit, which is about as high as you'd ever want to go. You know, as I said, most people can't tell the difference between 1,000 grit and 8,000. It's all removing the scratch pattern, you know, of the previous grit, so, you know. if you can discern the difference between a 1,000 grit scratch pattern and a 8,000 grit scratch pattern, why, more power to you.
Yeah.
You got a microscope.
Yeah, basically. But then after, after that, all it is a matter of stropping.
Strop in the same manner as you sharpened.
Yeah, I'll demonstrate here. As soon as I get this cleaned up a little bit. Where's all my,
Imagine you're going to set your chisel.
Under that board.
There they are. I think you're gonna bring your chisel in here.
as I said, for stropping, I like this, this yellow rouge. It's the finest grit.
Yeah. Yeah, so you're gonna roll down your chisel only goes so far to whatever. this
And about
is.
10 times on either side is about all you need.
So you just roll down, pull it
But
back.
I always strop the back too.
Yeah, your chisel's going in there. And then, lock it down.
Now, why has that jig got a hollow spot at the bottom?
Use it.
Is that so it can flex?
What jig?
The board you're working on?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Friend of mine made it, you'd have to ask him.
Okay.
He made it so he'd ask the question.
It was easy, it's got a hole that hangs on the wall and you can, it's a finger thing.
Okay.
The price will tell you what you wanna do. This offers it, you use it to sharpen.
I was up to the bone in June.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know if it was built that way, so it might have a little flex to it or something.
No,
Well, I mean, if it's just stropping though, it wouldn't hurt anything. You think? Even just stropping it?
It's got a handle.
Now, if you pass this around in the light, you'll be able to see the micro bevel on it. And if somebody's got real good eyes, they'll notice that on one side, the micro bevel is about a 32nd of an inch, and on the other side, it's about a 64th of an inch. To see that, you'd have to tilt it just right in the light, but you'll be able to see it.
Is that something that'll happen over time or just by?
No, just by uneven sharpening. But it's still sharp.
Still will do what
Yeah.
it's supposed to do, right?
It'll do what it's supposed to
How far is the hospital from here?
Not far.
Hit it, Steve, hit it.
I was worried about getting out the first aid, the first aid kit back there.
In fact, I brought a couple of pieces of walnut here, and I'll see if it'll shave end grain. Should.
How do you know when it's sharp enough?
Usually if you work up, 1,000 grit will give you a fine working edge, all you'd ever need. If you do a lot of real fine work, or you're paring a lot of end grain, you might wanna go up to 8,000. I go up to 8,000, just.
Hey, Ken, it was sharp enough.
How's the tabletop?
So generally, when you're starting with the smaller grit to, let's say, 8,000, how long is that process gonna more than likely take? Again, probably on the damage that you have on your chisel.
Yeah, if you start out with a brand new store-bought chisel, one of the better brands, it shouldn't take you any more than a half hour a chisel.
And that's with a fresh.
Yeah.
new one.
As I said, sharpening or flattening the back is everything. if you look at this plane blade, you know, you can really see where the back is dished on it. And it was that way all the way out to the edge. And, you know, to get it to cut correctly, you know, you have to get that dish out of there. Did I pass this around?
You did.
Yeah.
So basically, if you have a lot of I call them the wood chisels that have different shapes, you can do the same thing with all those. Some are
Right.
like disc type cutters.
I watch this guy sharpen his chisels and his plane blades, and what he'll do, is most of the time he does it by hand, but he'll take his angle finder and he'll set it next to what he's doing, so he can constantly make sure that he's, you know, holding his blade at the right angle, even though he's doing it by hand.
Or like a little block or something?
Yeah, just something next to it that's set at that
Muscle
angle.
memory type thing?
Yeah, just kind of, well, he doesn't even take it up, he just looks at it, you know,
Yeah.
make sure he's really
A
close.
lot of times,
There's a skill.
a lot of times if you're sharpening by hand, you can put your chisel or your plane blade down and you can actually tip it
Yeah.
and you can feel when it's flat, so. I'll pass this around again, this,
Yeah, you
One thing I've read about is, people advocating a hollow bevel. What is that?
yeah, a hollow grinding just makes it easier to sharpen. Let me, draw a picture up here. When you have a round sharpening wheel and you put something flat against it, you're gonna get a hollow here,
Radius.
just the same diameter as the wheel. If you do that out at the,
tip on.
the,
Yeah. Yeah, you can do that easily with skew.
see, that's exaggerated, but then when you sharpen, you're only sharpening this here and maybe a little bit here. And it just, all it does is sharpen it faster.
Well, most people actually get a skew on there that you have to do the whole slope and you don't, you have to do the tip.
I'll pass this around, this, you can feel a little bit of the burr starting on the back of that. But that's, and if you flip it over and look at the bevel, that's initially, 600 grit. A start to sharpen it, and that's just rough by hand.
What about angles on a blade like that? Or, you talked about chisels, I think those are just chisels, the 30, 26, 22. What about plane iron?
Actually, plane irons are based on what's called the frog of the plane. Boy, our board doesn't erase too well.
Let's try that wet rag, it'll probably do it.
It'll help it.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
it's a glass cleaner.
Oh, there's a bottle of cleaner right there on the tray. To your left.
No. Says whiteboard cleaner on it.
Sounds like a plan. Us men don't need instructions.
Only when the wife says, "Wait, did you read the instructions?"
What for?
Exactly.
Now, for a plane, the angle on a plane is most of the time 45 degrees. So when your blade comes down here, it's always a bevel down. This has to be a little bit less than 45.
Okay.
So usually, a plane blade is about 30 degrees. Because this surface here, which is the, actually the bottom of the blade,
Right.
upside down,
Yep.
so the angle between the sole here and this point here is gonna be 45 degrees. So this has to be a little less than 45 degrees because you're actually cutting with it upside down. So usually it's about 30 degrees.
Do you do a micro bevel on that also?
No,
Just straight?
just straight. Sometimes what they do with a plane blade for planing really tough wood is they'll take, let me draw a bigger picture. And they'll put what's called a back bevel on it. Okay, so, and what that does is it stands that edge up a little bit. And instead of getting a curl, say you're planing bird's eye maple or something, instead of getting a curl coming up, you'll get an accordion. And what you're doing is basically scraping that wood off, you know, at a higher angle.
Okay.
He just shaved with that blade.
Now, that's
There
just,
came
that's
right off.
most of your common planes, right? You also got some that are like a low profile.
Yeah,
I don't know, I haven't got one, so. I
yeah,
don't know.
this, you know, on the low angle planes, this will be around 38 degrees. And some of them are bevel up, but basically they'll all be, and then you can go up from here, there's 50 degree and 60 degree angle planes too, for tough woods.
Okay.
But usually about 38 is the lowest you'll ever see. Everybody, after we're done, everybody is welcome to come up and take a look at all the stuff here and pick it up and, you know, examine it and what have you, so. Any other questions on sharpening?
So if you were gonna go out, kind of, you know, I don't have any real good stone, if you were gonna go out and spend money wisely and kind of narrow it down to what you use the most, what would you recommend?
I would recommend for most everything a diamond stone about that size. This one has two different grits, it's got a fine and a coarse. Water stones, you can get Japanese water stones, two-sided, and I would get like a 1,000, 6,000 grit water stone, and basically that's all you need.
Do you jump from 1,000 to 6,000?
Sure,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, this isn't like sandpaper where you only go off, you know, a
Increment.
couple of grids, you know, at a time. No, you can jump up with this. You know, cause for that chisel I just sharpened, I went from 1,000 to 8,000, so, you know. And basically, on those grits, all you're doing is you're eliminating the scratch pattern, and making that edge, you know, instead of ragged, getting it finer and finer, so.
The first stone you picked up is the smaller one, what would the grit be on that?
Harbor Freight ones.
The diamond stone?
The one,
Yeah, the little.
the one you said had both
Get
sides.
one of those first.
Oh, what did you do?
The diamond stone.
Yeah, the diamond stone was right in front of me.
Define
Oh,
it
it's over
for us.
here. Yeah, this one is about 600 and 1,000,
Okay.
somewhere around that. On diamond stones, if you look at that chart I handed out, sometimes they'll just say fine, extra fine, coarse. They won't give you a actual grit of what it is. But, you know, that's why that handout is handy, is it'll give you a comparison grit size, you know, to go by. But you know, unless you're really taking a nick out or something, you know, probably 600 is the lowest you'd wanna go. If you're taking a nick out, this 600 grit plate, you can take a nick out in 10 minutes, less than 10 minutes. You know, that's how fast it.
Would you be able to show us your, technique for sharpening just a regular straight edge knife, like a, you know,
Sure.
hunting knife or a kitchen knife?
Yeah,
I got some kitchen knives that need to work.
actually, let me do this. I just happen to have a pocket knife.
That's not a knife.
I got one.
Charles had one.
That's not a knife.
You know, when I went to high school, every kid had a pocket knife.
Let's play mumbly pig.
Now every kid's got a telephone.
Everybody has a switchblade.
Yeah.
Learned to drive.
Pride yourself on that.
What's that?
Yeah, we like it.
Oh, she enjoyed it.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, she said she had a good time.
Pocket chip only, but I like this stuff so much.
We don't race it.
Paul, what stone are you using on that knife?
This is a water stone for carving, and it's probably about 1,000 grit.
She enjoyed it.
I was in that class when that thing went. Andy was sitting right next to me.
Yeah, he gets the right foot.
Freedom.
Eddie Swear?
Yeah, if you're using.
I live in Harlem, like I said.
Yeah.
They'll get better than they go.
Now the chisels you pulled
The fact that it's got a spark.
towards you, right?
What direct,
Yeah,
what direction are
direct.
you going?
Yeah, that's what I was getting at, direction.
Way for yourself.
That's got-
Oh, you're going towards
You're not the camera.
Get under the, yeah,
Burn.
go over by your bottle.
Yeah, there.
There you go.
Beautiful.
Oh, there's your answer.
20 degrees?
Yeah, roughly. My pocket knife isn't dull, so,
So there's no circular motion, it's all straight and
All
moving.
straight?
yeah.
That's a water stone, sir?
Yeah, this is a water stone,
What grade?
Under the camera,
about 1,000 grit.
Uh-huh.
lean over.
Just hold it over that piece of granite.
There you go.
Yeah, watch what you're doing.
First aid.
That's right.
Okay, so you pulled it,
Airplane.
So he's doing both directions.
Before you fold it, now you're pushing away? Yeah, okay,
Okay, so you go in either direction.
either direction.
See, yeah, we can cut.
He switches the blade to the other side.
Yeah, Jim Welch.
Spray foam works too.
One time I cut my hand. I got my thumb from here to here.
Now, you can see by the color of the water stone what's in what. Okay,
Still on the phone, still not sure.
But you can go either way, either sharp edge to you, sharp edge away,
Sure.
you know.
yeah, actually, away is probably,
I had my thumb away.
But in that manner there, not, the chisels, you pull them away from.
now, you can also do the same thing.
Chisel,
Either way, he's pulling it.
yeah,
You can take a strop and you can strop it. You know,
Does that
there's
take the
pro-
burrs off?
yeah, if there was a burr,
Is that the slate? Is it right over there?
yeah. Just like that, and polish the edge. You know, and for the, yeah, for this, you know, you would just do the same thing, you'd take and charge your board with a little rouge.
Rouge, polish. Stone, polish. Where do you buy your rouges from?
Any one of the woodworking stores you can buy them from,
Like Woodcraft?
yeah. And they last a long time, believe me.
Is there a woodworking store in Brunswick?
No.
So where is there one around
Jacksonville, Rockler,
Rockler? Okay.
so.
that's in St. John's Town Center, so kind of the south of Jacksonville a little bit.
We have one Rockler right where we live, but I was just wondering.
I'm glad they're a long ways away.
Go very often.
I know.
Yeah, but once you got everything, you don't buy anymore.
Right?
Never have everything.
Never.
True, but the rate at which you buy goes down a lot.
Is that a question?
Yes.
Can I have a hunk of that?
I don't see why not.
So
Karen,
you got a saw? Pardon?
she wants a hunk of that. That Sinlax?
Have a saw?
It may just break off.
Yeah, whatever you want from that.
We got some chisels.
We got sharp chisels.
Looks like ginger.
Yeah, if it's not,
Does.
if
Anybody else
it
have
is
any
not
other
taken,
questions?
I will have to dispose of it.
Do you use, scrub plane,
Pretty
like with a cambered blade?
Not really.
Huh?
I usually start when it comes out of the planer.
Okay.
Off the joiner and out of the planer, that's when I start.
I've been getting more and more into, you know, old school handwork working.
Yeah, and, you know, there are people that, you know, that's their thing is, you know, hand tool woodworking.
It's just so much quieter.
Yeah.
Right there.
So can I ask
All right,
where a good place to source wood is?
Source wood,
I mean, just find,
there's a couple places in Jacksonville, that, there's a place in Savannah, Case Woodworking. There's Florida Southern Plywood in Jacksonville.
Eco Relics. Go to Eco Relics, they got lumber down there too.
Yeah,
All right, I think we're about done, Paul. Thank you very much, that was good.
oh, you're welcome.
Again, yeah. Excellent. All right, last thing is the raffle. Carl's gonna grab one.
Go home and sharpen your paint scrapers. Make them into chisels.
Paint scrapers are sharp.
745. 745.
745. 745. Take it. I gotta look at mine.
Well, yeah, that too.
got more than one prize?
Anybody got 745?
Not a glass.
All right, he's got the second one.
758.
758. All right. How many you wanna draw, Karen? How many we normally draw?
Usually does 5.
5? We'll draw 4 more. Draw more.
No, that's enough, that's all I need for a newsletter.
727.
God bless, draw mine, would you?
Yo.
You will, your name and email address, I'll add you to my newsletter.
718. Oh, I got that one, that's mine.
That's good for you.
Yeah, I know.
And this is good for you.
One more?
719.
That's mine, draw another.
Here,
763.
7 what?
63.
I got a winner.
Okay,
These two sharpening jigs are.
Oh, is
these
that
are one, the first one, right? You get your pick over here, Karen, what you got up here? You got a gift card over here.
Oh.
Yeah, wait till you go to dinner.
That's why those things are so hard. Pick a metal one next time. I mean, that's not the metal one.
Thank you.
Yeah, I got them on my computer.
There are more lines on the back, you just didn't turn it over.
I did it here, I made my own